Good morning, this is Mrs. Cruz, and if you're watching this video, today we will be going over Wednesday's task, which is to read pages 16 to 24. We will be answering text-dependent question number 3, and also just a reminder that later today I will have office hours from 1:30 to 2 if you have any questions. If you watched yesterday's video, we went over pages 8 to 15. We answered text-dependent question number 2. So, as of right now, we are going to be focusing on the question, what's Stacy's plan and why does he plan on doing this? But as you guys know, I like to start with just finding where we're going to stop for that day. So, let's look for the end of page 24. Okay, so we're on page 23, this is 24. So I'm just going to highlight this one with the last line in the page, highlight that green. Okay, then I'm going to find my place from yesterday. Here we are. And this is the moment where I like to remind myself what happened yesterday. The last line says, "Why don't you leave us alone? How come you're always hanging around us anyway?" And we know that Stacy is saying this to Jeremy. So as a reminder, like they just kind of, at this moment, they're walking home. And if you remember, they were just splashed really hard and forced off the street by the bus. So their spirits are really low at this point. And Jeremy comes to talk to them, and as you guys can imagine, it's not the best time to talk to them because they're really upset about what just happened to them. And of course, Jeremy doesn't know this, but he's just kind of like walking into the situation. So if we find any evidence of Stacy's plan, however, we're going to highlight that aqua color. So let's get started. Here we go. So why don't you leave us alone? How come you're always hanging around us anyway? Let's take this highlighting. Jeremy grew even more pale. "'Cause I just like y'all," he stammered. Then he whispered, "What is it, the bus again?" No one answered him, and he said no more. When we reached the crossroads, he looked hopefully at us as if we might relent and say goodbye. But we did not relent, and as I glanced back at him, standing alone in the middle of the crossing, he looked as if the world itself was slung around his neck. It was only then that I realized that Jeremy never rode the bus, no matter how bad the weather. That's actually a question that you could ask, right? Like, kind of like two questions here. Like, number one, why are they so mad at Jeremy? And then number two, how come Jeremy never rode the bus? As we crossed the school lawn, Stacy beckoned Christopher John, Little Man, and me aside. "Look," he whispered, "meet me at the tool shed right at noon." "Why?" we asked. He eyed us conspiratorially. "I'll show y'all how we're going to stop that bus from splashing us." "How?" asked Little Man, eager for revenge. "I don't have time to explain now. Just meet me. And be on time. It's going to take us all lunch hour." You mean we ain't going to eat no lunch?" Christopher John cried in dismay. You can miss lunch for one day," said Stacy, moving away. But Christopher John looked sourly after him, as if he greatly questioned the wisdom of a plan so drastic that it could exclude lunch. "You gonna tell TJ and Claude?" I asked. TJ shook his head. "TJ's my best friend, but he's got no stomach for this kind of thing. He talks too much, and we couldn't include Claude without TJ." "Good," said Little Man. At noon, we met as planned and ducked into the unlocked tool shed, where all the church and school garden tools were kept. Stacy studied the tools available while the rest of us watched. Then, grabbing over the shovels, he handed one to me, holding on to the other himself, and directed Little Man and Christopher John to each take 2 buckets. Stealthily emerging from the tool shed, into the drizzle, we eased along the forest edge behind the class buildings to avoid being seen. Once on the road, Stacy began to run. "Come on, hurry," he ordered. "We ain't got much time." "Where are we going?" asked Christopher John, still not quite adjusted to the prospect of missing lunch. "Up to where that bus forced us off the road. Be careful now," he said to Christopher John, already puffing to keep up. When we reached the place where we had fallen into the gully, Stacy halted. "All right," he said, "start digging." Without another word, he put his bare foot upon the top edge of the shovel and sank it deep into the soft road. Come on," he ordered, glancing up at Christopher John, Little Man, and me, who were wondering whether he had finally gone mad. "Cassie, you start digging over there on that side of the road right across me. That's right. Don't get too near the edge. It's got to look like it's been washed out. Christopher John, you and Little Man start scooping out mud from the middle of the roads. Quick now," he said, still digging as we began to carry out his commands. "We got only about 30 minutes, so as we can get back to school on time." We asked no more questions, while Stacy and I shoveled ragged holes almost a yard wide and a foot deep toward each other, dumping the excess mud into the water-filled gullies. Little Man and Christopher John scooped bucketfuls of the red earth from the red center, and for once in his life, Little Man was happy, oblivious to the mud splattering upon him. When Stacy's and my holes emerged into one big hole with Little Man's and Christopher John's, Stacy and I threw down our shovels and grabbed the extra buckets. Then the four of us ran back and forth to the gullies, hastily filling the buckets with the murky water and dumping it into the hole. Now, understanding Stacy's plan, we worked wordlessly until the water lay at the same level as the road. Then Stacy waded into the gully water and pulled himself up into the forest bank. Finding 3 rocks, he stacked them to identify the spot. "It might look different this afternoon," he explained, jumping down again. Christopher John looked up at the sky. "Looks like it's going to rain real hard some more." "Let's hope so," said Stacy. "The more rain, the better. That'll make it seem like more likely that the road could have been washed away like that. It'll also keep cars and wagons away." He looked around, surveying the road. "And let's hope don't nothing come along before that bus. Let's go." Quickly, we gathered our buckets and shovels and hurried back to school. After returning the tools to the tool shed, we stopped at the well to wash the mud from our arms and feet, then rushed to our classes, hoping that the mud caked on our clothes would go unnoticed. As I slipped into my seat, Miss Crocker looked at me oddly and shook her head, but when she did the same thing as Mary Lou and Alma sat down, I decided that my mud was no more noticeable than anyone else's. Okay, so just to pause to see what they did really quickly. So we know that we're going to be highlighting this color. And then so just for starters, we know the white part. So he's saying that they're going to the part where they're forced off the road. So he specifically chooses that place where they were humiliated. And I feel like that part's really interesting. Okay, so what are they doing at that part? Well, they start digging a hole. And he says, don't go too near the edge. It's got to look like it's been washed out. So Stacy's trying to dig a hole, but he wants to make sure it looks like it's been done by the rain, not by them, right? And then he also tries to... It says, while Stacy and I shoveled ragged holes almost a yard wide and a foot deep toward each other, dumping the excess mud into the water-filled gullies, Little Man and Christopher John scooped up bucketfuls of the red earth from the road's center. So they're working as a team to really make sure that these holes are nice and big. And then the last part I feel like I'm going to highlight is that then the 4 of them go back and forth from the gullies, filling the buckets with murky water and dumping them on the hole. So I feel like they're putting the water in the hole so that it just blends in as part of the road. And so someone wouldn't notice a big hole in the road. Okay. I think that's all I'll highlight for now. kind of tells me what his plan is, and they're able to go back to school without anyone suspecting anything. Okay, let's keep going. Soon after I had settled down to the boredom of Miss Crocker, the rain began to pound down again, hammering with great intensity upon the tin roof. After school, it was still raining as the boys and I, avoiding TJ and Claude, rushed along the slippery road recklessly, bypassing more cautious students. You think we'll get there in time to see, Stacy? I asked. We should. They stay in school 15 minutes longer than we do, and it always takes them a few minutes to load up. When we reached the crossing, we glanced toward Jefferson Davis. The buses were there, but the students had not been dismissed. We hastened on. Expecting to see the yard-wide ditch we had dug at noon, we were not prepared for the 12-foot lake which glimmered up at us. Holy smokes, what happened? I exclaimed. The rain, said Stacy. Quick, up the bank. Eagerly, we settled onto the muddy forest floor and waited. So at this point, you should be asking yourself, what are they waiting for? And if you're not sure, let's keep reading then. Hey, Stacy, I said, won't that big a puddle make that old driver cautious? Stacy frowned, then said uncertainly, I don't know. Hope not. There's big puddles down the road that ain't deep, just water heavy. I was to be walking out there when the bus comes. If I was to be walking out there when the bus comes, that old bus driver would be sure to speed up so he could splash me, I suggested. Or maybe me, Little Man volunteered, ready to do anything for his revenge. Stacy thought a moment, but decided against it. Nah, it's better none of us be on the road when it happens. It might give them ideas. Stacy, what if they find out we done it? Asked Christopher John nervously. Don't worry, they won't, assured Stacy. Hey, I think it's coming, whispered Little Man. We flattened ourselves completely and peered through the low bushes. The bus rattled up the road. So at this point, just to quickly pause, if you have figured out, so they're waiting for the bus, and they're waiting to see if their plan for the big hole worked. And so they're really excited, and they're figuring it out. So let's see what happens. The bus rattled up the road, though not as quickly as we had hoped. It rolled cautiously through a wide puddle some 20 feet ahead, then seemed to grow bolder as it approached our man-made lake. It speeded up, spraying the water in high sheets of backward waterfalls into the forest. We could hear the students squealing with delight, but instead of the graceful glide through the puddle that its occupants were expecting, the bus emitted a tremendous crack and careened drunkenly into our trap. For a moment it swayed, and we held our breath, afraid that it would topple over. Then it sputtered a last murmuring protest and died, its left front wheel in our ditch, its right wheel in the gully, like a lopsided billy goat on its knees. We covered our mouths and shook with silent laughter. As the dismayed driver opened the rear emergency exit, the rain poured down upon him in sharp needle darts. He stood in the doorway, looking down with disbelief at his sunken charge. Then, holding on to the bus, he poked one foot into the water until it was on solid ground before gingerly stepping down. He looked down the bus, he looked at the streaming hood, he looked at the water, then he scratched his head and cursed. How bad is it, Mr. Grimes? A large, freckle-faced boy asked, pushing up one of the cracked windows and sticking out his head. Can we push it out and fix it? Push it out? Fix it? The bus driver echoed angrily. I got me a broken axle here and a waterlogged engine, no doubt, and no telling what else, and you talking about fixing it? Y'all, come on, y'all get out of here. Y'all gonna have to walk home. Mr. Grimes, a girl ventured, stepping hesitantly from the rear of the bus. You gonna be able to pick us up in the morning? The bus driver stared at her in total disbelief. Girl, all y'all gonna be walking for at least 2 weeks by the time we got this thing hauled out of here and up to Strawberry to get fixed. Now y'all get on home. He kicked a back tire and added, and get y'all's daddies to come up here and give me a hand with this thing. Okay, so just to pause, you should be asking yourself, did Stacy's plan work? What's going on so far? And is there anything that we should highlight for the last question, which is asking about the effects of his plan? So as you ask those questions, we will answer them in part 2 of this video.